Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, here with some more Caesar Battle of the Nile, 47 BC. This is the last episode, guys. The last one. I know doesn't end like Caesar, his whole career. This pretty much gets him started, right? Uh, so yeah, I mean, this is the last one for now. I mean, eventually, I am going to pick back up on it, and I'm not sure how often Kings and Generals puts out videos, but you know, I'll definitely if he has newer videos come out on Caesar, I'll definitely obviously watch them. So if one could just say one comes out next week, I'll definitely at the end of a series or something, I'll definitely watch that video, or next month or whatever, just to kind of catch up, with the series and all that stuff. And if he doesn't come out with any more, then eventually, I'll go to another channel and continue the series in. But for now, this is the last one. I'm sorry, guys, but it is. And yeah, then we're on to the last episode, Napoleon Marshall. I think it's the last episode, right? Napoleon's Marshals. Yeah, I think it's the last episode. I don't know. I don't know. I'll find out. Anyways, I want to get through this video. And this is Caesar, guys. It's been an awesome ride. I just want to thank you, everybody, for the support, and thank you for watching along with me. What's winning the poll right now? Because then we're on to a new series. I haven't checked in a day. So last time I think it was the 30 Years of War, but it was barely winning at the time I checked it, by 2 percentage points. But that's the future. We're living in the now. And right now it's Battle of the Nile, 47 BC, Caesar's Civil War. Like I said, a great series. I think right now Caesar is he he's in Egypt, in the center of Alexandria, locked up with Cleopatra and his men, pretty much, right? While all the I guess the Egyptian people, the other king, not the Queen Cleopatra, but the other king's men kind of got him surrounded. I kind of forget how that episode ended off. I just remember it being like that. And then they burned the ships, right? They burned the ships so they couldn't blockade. I'm not sure. I'm sure it's going to give us a little recap beforehand, but I'm excited to get to it. I hope you guys are. And yes. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so the time to respect. Last episode, guys. Let's do it. 3, 2. Oh, what am I doing? Let me full screen here. Kings and Generals, guys. It's been awesome, Kings and Generals. It's been a pleasure. Before I do, you know what I say? Hit the like and subscribe, please. That's right. Dun, dun, dun. Just finished geography now, Germany, by the way.
Caesar won a decisive victory at Pharos, and it looks like he was set to win the Roman civil war shortly. However, events brought him to Alexandria and into a civil war of another country.
Yeah, because Pompey had his head chopped off, and then there's a civil war in Egypt, and then that kind of messes with the food and grain supply towards. I don't know why I'm saying this. He's probably about to say the exact same thing, but he says it a lot cooler, and everything. So never mind. I'm just gonna shut up now, and we're gonna listen.
However, events brought him to Alexandria and into a civil war of another country. The last episode saw Caesar besieged by a massive Egyptian force in Alexandria. In this episode, we will see how the Roman can find a way out of his predicament.
There you go.
We're often asked by our viewers what should be their first move to start their own channel. The first answer is to use a powerful video editor, and the sponsor of today's video, Wondershare Filmora, is
I just got a laptop, a gaming laptop, and yeah, that's what I did. I am not techno savvy at all. All right, here we go.
As time passed, Caesar's situation in Alexandria improved. His lieutenant in Asia Minor, Domitius Calvinus, had received Caesar's request for reinforcements and had responded by dispatching 2 legions, the 37th by sea and the 35th by land. The 35th was still far from reaching Egypt, but the 37th had now arrived. Strong winds had prevented them pulling into Alexandria's harbour, instead making landfall further down the coast and sending a small boat to inform Caesar of their arrival. Caesar badly needed these men, and so, leaving all his infantry to hold their positions in Alexandria, he left with his fleet and their respective crews to meet the 37th. En route, he dispatched small parties to collect what water they could, but these were attacked by Egyptian cavalry patrols and captured. The Egyptians, thus finding out Caesar's position, manned a number of small vessels with their infantry, hoping to catch Caesar separated from his legions. Caesar was not eager for battle. He needed all his ships for the 37th, and with no infantry or marines on his ships, the Egyptians would have the advantage in boarding. He tried to slip away. A Rhodian ship, however, drifted too far from the formation and was caught by the Egyptians, forcing Caesar to turn to rescue them. Caesar, in his account, is rather damning of these Rhodians for being caught, but also notes that they fought bravely with remarkable seamanship. They were able to buy enough time for the rest of Caesar's fleet to close in. With no heavy infantry to carry out the customary Roman tactic of boarding an enemy, Caesar trusted his crew's seamanship to ram and cripple as many ships as possible while avoiding boarding. The plan worked, and the superior ships of Caesar's fleets were able to sink one ship and capture another. With night closing in, the Egyptians gave up the battle and retreated. Caesar was able to...
Is this the time? I've seen movies. I think it was Ben-Hur, where you basically have slaves row your boat underneath top, the slaves row your boat, and then if you ram a ship, the slaves dead, aren't the slaves chained to the bottom of the boat or something, to where if they get rammed, the boat sinks and the slaves died too. I think that's how it goes. I think Ben-Hur was around this time period. It was the Romans, right? I think so. But it just made me think, all the slaves, you ram the ship's going to sink, and then all those people are going to die. I don't know, it just crossed my mind. Ben-Hur, I haven't seen that movie in forever. But yeah. Cool, he had some kind of naval thing. Caesar took off to get out of there and had a little naval skirmish there. That was cool.
Closing in, the Egyptians gave up the battle and retreated. Caesar was able to continue to the 37th, adding a much-needed 5,000 men to his numbers, towing their transports into harbour and arriving back in Alexandria the following morning. The Alexandrians were disheartened by this reversal, but Ganymedes was resilient and decided that he needed to rob Caesar of his naval capacity. More than 100 ships had been burnt by Caesar in the harbour, but not all were beyond repair. He ordered the Alexandrians to make repairs on as many ships as possible. The citizens and soldiers of Alexandria committed wholly to the task, even going so far as to pull wood from the buildings of Alexandria to suit their needs. After just a few days, Ganymedes had a fleet of 27 warships and a number of small ships ready for duty and prepared for battle. Caesar was well aware of the importance of naval supremacy and also began drawing up his fleet, approximately 19 warships and 15 smaller vessels, manning them with infantry from the legions. With Caesar setting off from the royal harbour and Ganymedes from the Eunostos, the two fleets met just off the coast of Pharos Island. Caesar and Ganymedes both drew their fleets into two lines. Between the two fleets were shoals, with a narrow channel being the only path through. Both sides held their position, neither wanting to be caught being the first to pass through this channel. Eventually, the Rhodian commander, Euphranor, a skilled and well-known admiral, offered to break the stalemate. He insisted that he and his men would be able to push through and hold for long enough for Caesar's remaining ships to pass through the channel. Caesar allowed this, sending Euphranor with 4 Rhodian ships through the channel. They quickly passed through and formed a line to receive the Egyptian ships rapidly closing in, delaying long enough for the rest of Caesar's ships to make it through the channel. Caesar was extremely admiring of the Rhodians' skill and bravery, saying that not one ship was boarded or had its oars broken, each time meeting their enemy head-on.
Wow.
With Caesar's fleet now through the channel, he was fully committed. The channel would block any chance of an organized retreat. Caesar would need a win. Caesar had made this clear to his men prior to the battle, stressing that the fate of the Egyptian campaign rested on their soldiers. Though the Alexandrians were renowned sailors, the Romans did have a crucial advantage. The coast and shoals meant there was little room to maneuver, not only negating Ganymedes' numerical advantage, but also preventing his men from capitalizing on their superior seamanship. Instead, the ships were forced into close quarters combat with numerous boarding parties. This was the style of naval warfare the Romans excelled at, effectively making a naval battle a land battle where the superior skill and training of the legions could truly come into its own. By the end of the battle, 2 Egyptian ships had been captured, 3 sunk, and the remnants being forced to retreat back to harbour. Seeking to capitalize on his naval supremacy, Caesar immediately turned his attention to Pharos Island. The island was crucial for controlling access into the harbours and was linked to the mainland by a bridge which connected 2 moles, one extending from the island, one from the mainland. As has already been mentioned, Caesar had already stationed a small garrison on the promenade on the east of the island, and now he saw a chance to completely control Pharos Island, leaving just a few cohorts to hold the now completed defences in the city. Caesar ordered 10 cohorts, approximately 5,000.
Do these people, I guess, kind of like trying to get in there, not see like all these troops leaving, you know, and because you think that'd be a lot of pressure to put on them, you know. Yeah. All right, sorry about that. It was kind of interrupted there. So back to the dealio. What was I saying? So I'm surprised that these guys aren't being attacked now, because don't they have to like kill Cleopatra? But anyways, let's get back to the video.
Approximately 5,000 men, some light infantry and his best Gallic cavalry to their transports to prepare for an amphibious assault. He then ordered them to attack, at the same time attacking the island's garrison with his warships from the west. The fighting on the island was some of the bloodiest so far. The narrow streets and rooftops were ideal for the defenders, while Caesar's men disembarking from the ships were forced to wade through shallow waters and across a beach under constant missile fire.
Wow.
Caesar's tactic of attacking from 2 sides had...
I think a lot, the intensity of this battle now is because it's an island. Like, where do you retreat to? I mean, if you're the Egyptians, you kind of have to fighting for your life, because there's no, you can just run off into the forest or anything. Like, you're kind of trapped there pretty much. So I guess, that helps for, a more intensified battle, I guess.
had been effective in splitting the island's defenders, however, and finally the Romans were able to force the Alexandrians to retreat across the mole back to Alexandria. The retreat was not organized, many choosing to jump from the bridge and mole and swim to Alexandria rather than be caught in the bottleneck. Caesar gives the Alexandrian losses as being 6,000 captured and killed. Following this victory, Caesar fortified defences around the bridge controlling access to the Pharos, the Alexandrians garrisoning the bridge linking the mainland city to the mole. This bridge had a large arc through which the Alexandrians could potentially send ships. In order to stop the Egyptians being able to harass his own ships, Caesar would need to control this bridge. The day after taking the island, he first sent ships with artillery and archers to attack the Alexandrian garrison holding the bridge, forcing them to retreat, and then landed himself and 3 cohorts, about 1,500 men, on the mole. These men were then ordered to build a rampart to defend the bridge from the Alexandrian side, while men from the Pharos brought up stones from destroyed buildings to block the arch of the bridge. All seems to be going well when the Alexandrians suddenly made a huge push from the city to retake the bridge, simultaneously bringing up light ships to try and land some of their own men on the mole.
Wow.
With Caesar on the mole, some of his ships tried to take the initiative themselves, landing marines, slingers, and archers. Initially, these missiles were effective at fending off the Alexandrian light ships, but eventually the ships bypassed their position, landing behind them on the mole. These lightly armed troops were quickly outfought by the Alexandrians, and panic ensued as they attempted to retreat back to their ships.
Damn,
Caesar and the 3 cohorts were now caught in a pincer. Seeing their allied light infantry in disarray, the cohorts also began to break. Some fought a desperate last stand and were cut down. Many more desperately tried to retreat to their transports. Among these was Caesar. Due to the sheer number and panic, however, many of these transports began to capsize. Thinking fast, Caesar was forced to strip his armor and dive off the boat, swimming to his nearby ships to save his life.
Wow.
The battle had been a disaster for Caesar. Though Pharos Island was in Caesar's hands, the bridge was not, and so the Alexandrians could still use the arch to harass his own ships. Moreover, according to Caesar himself, he lost 400 legionnaires and another 400 sailors and marines.
Wow.
I've always loved sci-fi. And the idea of being right on the edge of discovery and the frontiers of space.
Like, very interesting stuff. Like, well, that only happened like when he was against like Pompey, you know, that kind of stuff. But wow, that was definitely surprising. You know, I thought everything was gonna go like Caesar's way here, but apparently not. And he had to jump off the boat into the water to get picked up by his other boat. Wow, that was close for him, man. Real close. I don't think he's been that close. Wow.
Seeking to capitalize on their good fortune, the Alexandrians sent emissaries to Caesar, requesting Ptolemy be returned to them in exchange for an end to the hostilities. Caesar relented and handed the pharaoh over, with the understanding that Ptolemy would then negotiate peace terms. The young king betrayed Caesar, however, and took control of the army, continuing the assaults on Caesar's defenses. The decision to hand over Ptolemy was clearly a mistake. In his own account, Caesar relays how his own officers and centurions strongly criticized him for his lack of judgment and trust in the king. Caesar attempts to justify his decision, claiming it was part of a far-sighted strategy which his men did not understand, and that Ptolemy had cried and begged Caesar to let him stay. This seems a clear point where Caesar was using his narrative to try and revise the events and put a positive spin on things. It is far more likely, given Caesar's situation, that he was grasping at straws by letting Ptolemy go, and judging.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I don't. Obviously, you'd rather have that that card to play. And at least you know that they storm the place. They're not just going to kill everyone they see. Yeah, he was trying to turn it around, make it look better on himself, pretty much, right?
Situation that he was grasping at straws by letting Ptolemy go, and judging by how much Caesar attempts to mask this, he was well aware that he had made a mistake.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, roughly a month later, around the end of February or start of March, Caesar's fortunes began to turn.
Okay.
His allies in Asia Minor had been rallying a force together and marching through Syria and the Levant to Egypt, while supplies were being sent by ship to Caesar. Word of this had already reached the Alexandrians, however, who sent a fleet to intercept the supplies. As soon as Caesar heard of this, he sent his own ships, commanded by Tiberius Nero and Euphranor, to defend his allies' supply ships. Though the Romans were able to win the battle, Euphranor's ship was surrounded and the Rhodian was killed.
Wow.
The army was also seeing success. The force was around 13,000 strong and commanded by Mithridates of Pergamum, an experienced, talented general and close friend of Caesar. He had now made it to the Nile Delta, having already stormed and seized the strategically important town of Pelusium. An Egyptian force was hastily gathered and sent to attack Mithridates at the river, hoping to either destroy his army or at the very least prevent him from reaching Alexandria and supporting Caesar. Mithridates had been well trained in the Roman style of warfare and successfully fortified his position, holding the Egyptians in check and inflicting heavy casualties as he did so. Messengers were sent to both Caesar and Ptolemy of these events, both learning of them around the same time. Ptolemy knew Mithridates had to be crushed, or else risk Mithridates attacking his force in Alexandria from the rear while they were busy besieging Caesar. Similarly, Caesar was well aware that any hope of victory now rested in Mithridates' army. Both decided to move to the Nile, Ptolemy leaving just the militia in Alexandria and sailing his army down the river, Caesar leaving a light garrison in Alexandria before taking the sea route. Ptolemy had the quicker route and was able to reach the Nile Delta before Caesar, merging with the force already there and taking a strong defensive position on high ground with their rear protected by the Nile, one flank by rocky high ground and the other flank by marshland. Caesar arrived shortly afterwards, before Ptolemy could launch an attack on Mithridates' position, meeting Mithridates approximately 7 miles away from Ptolemy's camp. In order to reach the king, they would need to ford a small river. Ptolemy sent a force of cavalry and light infantry to this river, hoping to harass Caesar and his allies as they crossed. However, Caesar's Germanic and Gallic cavalry, by now experienced in river crossings, had been sent ahead of Caesar's main army, crossing the river undetected. Meanwhile, Caesar had his legions cut down trees, placing them across the river as makeshift bridges, and ordered them to charge across. The legions poured across, falling upon the Egyptian light infantry and cavalry. As they did, Caesar's Gallic and Germanic cavalry appeared, charging into the Egyptian flank, routing them almost immediately.
Nice.
Only a few managed to make it to Ptolemy's camp, the rest being cut down by Caesar's cavalry. As was his custom, Caesar encamped close to the enemy, stationing his men at the bottom of the hill, eager to tempt his enemy into battle. With Ptolemy in command of the army, a victory here would put an end to all Egyptian resistance.
That's gonna go down. Oops.
Caesar had with him the 37th Legion, the remnants of the 6th and 27th, plus the reinforcements brought by Mithridates, roughly 20,000 infantry and another 1,000 cavalry. Ptolemy's force was slightly larger, perhaps 27,000, including the 20,000 veterans who had been at Alexandria and 2,000 cavalry. With Ptolemy's force being larger and holding the better position, Caesar attempted to draw the young king out of position by attacking a nearby hamlet that had been lightly garrisoned by Ptolemy's men. He committed his whole force to this attack, routing the garrison, but Ptolemy did not take the bait. Caesar ordered his men to pursue the fleeing Egyptians up the hill to Ptolemy's position, hoping that the panicked garrison might trigger a mass rout. Ptolemy's men held their positions, however, and Caesar's men now found themselves.
This Ptolemy guy seems like a pretty smart dude, man. He's been giving Caesar some problems here, man. So I guess a little bit of props to him. He's not backing down, and he's kind of like making Caesar work for it, basically.
Ptolemy's men held their positions, however, and Caesar's men now found themselves in a tough uphill battle against an entrenched enemy. Some of his men tried to circle around the Egyptian position, attempting to attack Ptolemy from the rear, but these men were soon peppered by missiles not just from the high ground, but also from Ptolemy's ships on the river. Effectively cut off from the rest of Caesar's force, these men took brutal casualties, having little choice but to try and hide behind their shields. So far, Caesar was making little headway and his men were starting to lose ground. As they were being pushed back though, the Alexandrians were pushing forward, out of their camp and slowly moving further off the high ground. Noticing this crucial error, Caesar sent a detachment of cohorts to skirt around the battle lines to seize Ptolemy's camp. They quickly stormed the defences, overrunning the few Egyptians there, before rushing down the hill to attack Ptolemy's main force in the rear. This move proved decisive, triggering mass panic along Ptolemy's line, which quickly broke. They retreated in chaos to the river, piling onto their ships, many of which capsized.
I just gave this guy props for giving Caesar hell, and then makes like a big blunder. I'm surprised that, because it still looked like Ptolemy had a lot more men that, I guess they fled. I'm surprised that they didn't try to, I guess come back at him, but then again, I guess it was very unexpected, they were just running for their lives after that. Wow.
They retreated in chaos to the river, piling onto their ships, many of which capsized in the confusion. Many Egyptians, weighed down by their armor, drowned in the river, among them the young King Ptolemy himself.
King died?
Wasting no time after this victory, Caesar immediately rode to Alexandria with his cavalry, proclaiming his success and Ptolemy's death.
Wow.
With the king dead, the militia there immediately surrendered. Caesar had won. We do not know how many casualties there were on either side.
Wow, the king died. Yes, because that means Cleopatra is the clear leader, but they were kind of like civil war, but now with Cleopatra being like, the blood, having the blood, like makes her the, that there's no other person can, rival her for the throne. So yeah, basically war is over. It was basically who could kill the other person's queen or king first, and dang, died in the water.
Had won. We do not know how many casualties there were on either side. Caesar's men, who had tried to attack the camp from the Nile side, are said to have taken heavy casualties, and Caesar's force had been forced to fight a difficult battle. Given these circumstances, an approximation of around 1,000 to 2,000 losses for Caesar seems probable, and perhaps as many as 10,000 for the Egyptians.
Wow.
Following the campaign, Caesar embarked on a 3-month-long pleasure cruise with Cleopatra down the Nile, where he, in Appian's words, generally enjoyed himself with her. Soon afterwards, Cleopatra gave birth to a boy, Ptolemy XV, who would later be nicknamed Caesarion. Though Caesar never officially acknowledged Caesarion as being his son, his birth in June 47 BC would align with Cleopatra's first meeting with Caesar at the end of 48 BC. Cleopatra insisted that Caesar was the father, and it is also worth remembering that Cleopatra had spent most of that time besieged in Alexandria and so did not have access to a large number of suitors. Cleopatra agreed to pay the 10 million drachmae debt requested by Caesar, and was named co-ruler with her brother Ptolemy XIV in sibling marriage, naming both friends of Rome.
Okay.
In total, Caesar's escapade in Egypt had taken a full 9 months. Plutarch calls it not necessary, inglorious and full of peril. It is hard to disagree with this assessment. Though Caesar had successfully had the Egyptian debt paid and pro-Roman rulers installed, he had wasted a lot of time and his attention had been badly needed elsewhere. In the 9 months Caesar was in Egypt, Antony, though talented on the battlefield, had proven to be a poor governor. His refusal to cancel outstanding debts was unpopular not only with senators, but also with plebs and veterans, the core of Caesar's supporters. The unrest this caused was so great that Antony had resorted to bringing soldiers into the city of Rome itself in a desperate attempt to contain the situation.
Wow.
Caesar's lieutenant, Quintus Cassius Longinus, who had been left to govern Hispania Ulteria, had been equally disastrous. His tyrannical governance of the province had even led to a short-lived pro-Optimate rebellion. Furthermore, some of his men had rebelled and proclaimed Marcellus as the new praetor instead. The province of Illyricum had also been stirred to revolt by Marcus Octavius, who was constantly assaulting towns in the area. In Asia Minor, Pharnaces II of Pontus, another son of Mithridates VI, had taken advantage of the chaos caused by the civil war, attacking a number of Roman allies. Meanwhile, throughout the last 9 months, Cato, Scipio, the sons of Pompey and Labienus, had been consolidating their strength in North Africa, amassing a vast army. Caesar had entered Alexandria as dictator and effectively master of the Roman world, save for a rebellious faction in North Africa. He was now leaving with dissent, war and rebellion in North Africa, Spain, Italy, Illyricum and Asia Minor. Leaving 3 legions in Egypt, the 27th, 37th and newly finally arrived 35th, Caesar took the remains of the veteran 6th and marched for Asia Minor through Syria. There are still many battles to be fought before his victory could be considered complete, so make sure you are subscribed and have pressed the bell button. Please consider liking, commenting and sharing, it helps immensely. Our videos would be impossible.
Well, I'm already liked and subscribed and all that stuff, so I definitely will be keeping my eye open on their next episode. So, but anyways, guys, wow, what a crazy episode. Like just the naval battle there on the bridge and everything, and Caesar having to jump out of the ship to save his life, and then I'm confused there. Was I wrong? Like the king drowned, and that means I thought it was just Cleopatra who would be left to rule, but she has another brother, and now they got a co-lead again. I'm not. I guess I was a little confused there. Maybe it wasn't the king that drowned. It was their leader. I guess the general who was leading the Egyptians. I'm not sure. I forget. Either way, he won there, but by spending all that time there, he neglected, all these other places, and as you see, I mean, there's chaos going on. I mean, now he's got to go and kind of go back around his whole empire, just fix things, So yeah, it's crazy. But stay tuned because we're definitely gonna continue on with Caesar. Not right now, it's to be continued. And tomorrow is Napoleon Marshals, number 6. And then Napoleon. So anyways, guys, I appreciate this journey. It's not over yet, but I appreciate this journey so far with Caesar. We probably don't have many episodes left on him, but we'll get to them when they appear. So Kings and Generals, appreciate great series, and like I said, I hope everyone at home enjoyed this series. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. It was great having you guys along. I appreciate all the comments and all that stuff. And I hope you'll continue along with more videos I do. So anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. And please hit that like and subscribe if you haven't yet. And I'll definitely catch you guys in future videos. Peace. It's been a blast. And I'll see you